Next time we do our new player video and I'm telling people to get Canada, I want to have you do just a little voiceover bit where you say, "Hi, I'm Negative1, and I fully endorse Paleozoic Canada." Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with a discussion video. I got Negative1 in here with me, and we're gonna be talking about Canada, Floodgate, and Book of Moon, and what the differences are, and how they impact the game, and what's hot right now and what's not. So, how are you doing, Neg?
Doing well, doing well.
A lot of people will ask, different things about these cards, and they'll say, what's the difference? Isn't Book of Moon just like Canada? Isn't it just like Econ or something like that? Or why do you guys recommend Canada so much? Isn't that card just doo doo? Or isn't Floodgate the best card? And they all kind of do the same thing, right? So why are there three different cards? And when do we use the three different cards, right? So that's what we're going to get into here. So let's start with the one we always love to talk about. People hate us for liking this card, and that's Paleozoic Canada. You just want to give us an overview of that card first, Neg?
Yeah, so the through line through all three of these cards is that they will flip an opponent's monster face down. That's their primary function, I would say. Um, but Canadia will flip your opponent's monster face down at any point. So it doesn't matter if it's immediately summoned or if it's attacking and you need to flip it down. At any point, you can flip Canadia and then flip the monster face down. And it also has a bonus effect where if it's in the graveyard and a trap is activated, you can use its effect to special summon it onto the field as a 1200 body.
Okay. And I forgot to mention, we got Battle Phase Friday going on here. This is live right now. By the time you see this video, it's not going to be live, but this is live, so I thought it'd be fun to let you guys see this as we're recording right now. So that's PDS on the Twitch channel doing Battle Phase Friday. Um, so Canada is a great card. A lot of people saying it's not a great card because it kind of fell out of the meta for a little bit and was replaced by Floodgate Trap Hole for the longest time. So tell me a little bit about Floodgate.
So I would say Floodgate is definitely one of the more staple back row cards in Duel Links history. Just like permanently flipping a monster face down has historically been like a struggle for a lot of decks to deal with, just because synchro decks, they don't always, they like need their monsters face up. XYZ decks, more recently, they need their monsters face up. um, but not throughout history, not all decks have had ways to deal with or ways to get rid of face down floodgated monsters.
And then another big
So
difference between like Canadian and Floodgate is Canadian targets, right? Whereas Floodgate does not.
yeah, so and that's another strength where Canadio on it does target, but you can use it whenever. Floodgate, you will have to use it on summon. However, the strength is that it permanently flips it face down and it doesn't target the monster. The most relevant point where like this distinction came up was definitely back when Invoked was super popular. You would see Invoke Cocytus. You can't target it, so Canadia just no effect
Didn't do
against
anything.
Cocytus. But if you have Floodgate, flipping it down and it's like their only Cocytus, it's like pretty big because Cocytus, once it's face down, it's no longer applying its like you can't target me effect. So once it's face down, you can hit it with any sort of effect.
Okay. So the big thing was like Canada, you can kind of activate it uh, more free or whenever you want. Well, not whenever, but more opportunities to activate it than Floodgate because Floodgate's always right on summon, right? Whereas Canada, it's kind of like you can kind of choose when you want to do it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, and then the latest newcomer, the $400 card right now in the game, Book of Moon. What's so? Tell us about that card and why people are losing their mind over it right now.
So the thing about Book of Moon is that instead of being a trap, it's a quick play spell.
Hmm.
And um, pretty much The entire text is you target a monster and then you flip it face down. And
Nice and easy.
yep. I think someone said the shorter the effect, the more broken the card.
I think that was
Um,
you, wasn't it?
it wasn't me. I forget
Oh,
who it
okay.
was though. But um, here it's like it's very like simple effect. However, you got to think the value of Canadia and Floodgate are they can flip monsters face down. However, they are predominantly going first cards.
hmm
And when the meta is more about going first, you don't want to run cards that are just gonna be super low value when you go second, you know? So in the current meta, Noble Knights will often set up a board of Madrot boars with equips. And if you go second into that with Canada and Floodgate, those aren't really helping you like win the game because they've already set up and they're able to just summon out more monsters. And then the Canadian Floodgate are too slow to really compete with that.
hmm
Um, Whereas Book of Moon is a quick play spell, so even if you go second with the card, you still have the ability to flip down your opponent's monsters on your turn. So like the immediacy of being able to use it um, really propels it in like these faster formats.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I kind of wanted to get into the difference between the cards a little bit, and then what's hot in the meta right now and why. So you kind of covered Book of Moon a little bit there. Was there anything else that was makes it so great right now?
I would say it's mostly that it's just a quick play spell. Dodging Karma Cut is another relevant interaction in some matchups. I know not every deck is running Karma Cut, even though it sometimes feels like that. But just being able to dodge Karma Cut, dodge or like protect from an enemy controller, um, because these cards say that it has to either banish that target or it has to take control of that target. So if you flip the monster face down, it will make the card from your opponent fizzle.
Right, because I think
So
both those cards, Econ and Karma Cut, say target a face-up monster, right?
yes, yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
Um, so Book of Moon, though, I guess let's say you do that. I mean, you're just gonna end up losing your monster in the next turn, anyways, right? I mean, they go
Well,
to Karma Cut your stuff, you flip it face down, your turn's kind of over, and then they just attack over it.
not necessarily. There are times when it's like, oh well, if I flip it face down, then it's like, oh, I just lose anyway. But there are times when it's when flipping your monster down will like save you from just like dying.
Just from losing
Um,
altogether.
yeah.
Okay.
If you think of say like more the more obvious one is if your opponent tries to enemy controller tribute their own monster and take yours,
hmm
flipping your own monster face down will prevent them from stealing it, and it will still act as like a body to protect you.
Right. Okay. But I mean, you're still losing some resources there. I just feel like you spent the Book of Moon. You're probably gonna lose the monster on their turn. It just feels like you're getting your resources whittled down a little bit there, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like you
But you
gotta
don't
think,
die, I guess.
yeah, you didn't die though. You can still play.
Right.
So, um,
I just feel in that situation like you're in a downward spiral at that point. If that's what you're doing, you know.
yeah, but like there's there's just like a lot of utility with Book of Moon
hmm
because just dodging certain effects or just like if your opponent tries to karma cut an Alistair, then it's like Book of Moon will like protect the Alistair. Or I suppose Fiendish Chain is like another card which sees some play but is not as popular as Karma Cut, and you can dodge Fiendish Chain with Book of Moon.
Okay. So Canada, that people saying this one is having a little bit of a comeback right now. Do you feel that way?
I'd say so for sure. I think especially with Noble Knights is where I'd say it's seen a fair amount of like value
And why is that?
because the a lot of the meta decks are running balance at the moment, and Noble Knights is running balance. And that a lot of them are running balance, including Noble Knights. And Noble Knights, they, as you probably know already, they need a monster and an equip. But because of the skill, they need to run some traps. So um, typically they'll use Karma Cut, some will use Raigeki Break, but Kanadia is also another good option because um, it can flip other opponents' monsters face down, and then its grave effect is also relevant, where if a trap is activated, it will summon itself out as a body. And so just like having the multi-use, survival options is really good.
hmm And then if you're playing against Noble Knights, it's nice to have too, right?
Yeah, because if you go first, it's like you flip the monster. They summon a monster and then they try to equip something to it. You flip it down and then they lose the equip, and then you can swing over the monster.
Right, but specifically like when they do the Merlin effect,
Yeah, that's like another time where you can use Canadia.
where they use it from the grave, they XZ summon and then you can use it then.
Or if they go activate the Merlin effect, you can flip down one of the monsters,
hmm
and then because they don't have enough valid targets, they don't have like two face up level fours or two face up level fives. They can't go into an XYZ.
Okay, all right. And any other good decks to use it with or against?
Um, just generally, uh, it's like not a loss to use it. You
hmm
know, you think against another pretty popular meta deck like Thunder Dragons, they will try to summon a rank 6 on their first turn, typically with an aloof lupine or so that they can summon the Constellar M7, or they can summon a Force Focus.
hmm
However, if you use Canadia to flip one of the monsters face down, then they can't go into their XYZ. Also, if they will try to, say, summon a Levineer, flipping down the Levineer is almost as good as just destroying it, if not better, because if your opponent summons a Levineer and then you have to use like a Raigeki break on it, then it destroys the Levineer and it puts an attribute into the graveyard. However, if you try to flip it face down with a Canadia, in both cases you don't like negate the effect. However, flipping it face down is like it's almost as good as destroying it because it has zero defense, but they also don't have a resource in the graveyard to banish for,
Okay.
say, a Thunder Dragon, a Duo, or another Levineer.
All right. So then, moving on to Floodgate, then, this one's kind of falling off right now, right? Because it was really hot for a while, but now it seems to be falling off. And why is that?
I think Floodgate is kind of falling off because the meta is too fast for it.
hmm
Um, you'll typically see Floodgate succeed when the meta is a lot slower. I think, or you think of when Shiranui was really like popular strategy. Floodgate was very common just because flipping down big synchros was relevant, whereas just Canadia flipping down the big synchros was not so much relevant. Um, well, it was still relevant, but the permanence of Floodgate is more important in those slower metas because just clogging your opponent's board is pretty valuable.
And it's easily played around too, right?
the Floodgate.
Yes.
In the current meta, it definitely is.
Do you want to explain that a little bit?
So the way Floodgate works is that it has to be when your opponent summons a monster, you can use Floodgate. However, if monster is summoned on Chain Link 2 or higher, um, the monster is summoned on that Chain Link 2, and then something on Chain Link 1 or below happens. So because you don't have the opportunity to activate it immediately when it's summoned, you can't activate Floodgate on a Chain Link 2 or higher summon.
So let's say I try to Karma Cut your Madrot, and then you activate Merlin in the grave to XZ summon, and then you
And
bring out your XZ's monster. I cannot Floodgate then, right?
that is correct, yes.
Okay, because the XZ summon is happening on Chainlink 2 above the Karma Cut.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So that's the problem with that. Now, would Canadia at that point be able to hit that XZ summon?
It would. It would also be able to interrupt the Merlin effect. So
Mm-hmm.
it would, as I said earlier, it could flip down one of the monsters, and then because it can't, there's not enough valid targets,
Mm-hmm.
then the summon doesn't go through.
Right, but let's say you didn't do that and you were in that position. At that point, you could flip down the rank, whatever, rank 4, rank 5 when it came out.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's
No, what
correct.
about Book of Moon? It'd be able to do that as well?
It would be able to do that as well. Yeah,
Okay. Because it's a quick play spell and it doesn't have the when and you can
yeah,
in the text.
yeah. And I think that part is it's semi-relevant, but it's not as relevant as I think the fact that Floodgate really wants to be used going first. So if your opponent is able to summon a bunch of monsters on their first turn, um, like if you draw Floodgate, it doesn't matter how many Floodgates you have. If your opponent has summoned all of the monsters that they're going to summon, having Floodgate will do nothing, essentially, you know?
Right. So like later into a game, say into a mid game, you draw your floodgate. It might not be have as much utility as if you had drawn into like a Canada or a Book of Moon.
Yeah. And because the meta is like so going first focused, Noble Knights typically want to go first, and then they set up their board. And then if you draw a Floodgate going second into Noble Knights, it's almost always like such low value that it's like it's not worth running at the moment.
Right.
You, or at the very least, you don't see um, it come up in very many tournament decks.
Now you keep talking about Noble Knights, but I feel like you're forgetting about another deck that's very hot right now, and that's Blue Eyes. So why don't we talk about Blue Eyes a little bit? And which one of these cards? I'm sure they all have their uses, but which one do you feel is the best? Let's say going against Blue Eyes.
Hmm. Against Blue Eyes, it's hard to say because traditionally the flip down cards are not very good against Blue Eyes.
And why is
They're
that?
better because um, the point when flip downs are really good is when you're able to flip a monster face down and then immediately just swing over it next turn because it's face down, it doesn't have an effect, so it can't use any of its like negation or
Mm-hmm.
interruption or quick effects, stuff like that. But Blue Eyes don't have any effects on the field other than like Dragon Spirit of White and alternative White Dragon. Um, the gimmick of Blue Eyes is that they're just big,
Right.
and you flip down a 3,000 attack monster, it still has 2,500 defense. You know,
Right.
so um, against Blue Eyes, typically the flip downs are not that impactful.
Okay, so you would say none of these cards are that great.
Arguably, I would say yes.
Wow. All right. I was not expecting that.
I
I was
think you could
expecting something.
say that maybe Floodgate might be all right, just because it's permanent and permanently flipping down a Blue Eyes is slightly better than just flipping down a Blue Eyes for one turn,
Hmm.
which is very low value. Um, however, even if you Floodgate multiple Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes are high level monsters that you can just tribute summon. So even no matter how many monsters you Floodgate from Blue Eyes, they will typically be able to just tribute summon for another monster.
Okay.
So
Let's
it's just so many reasons why the flip downs are actually kind of low value against um, that deck.
let's just do a couple more decks here that are hot right now. Thunder Dragons are everywhere in tournaments right now. Fan favorite deck. Do the flip downs work against them?
I would say yes, because Thunder Dragons has been moving more towards a XYZ sort of style.
Mm-hmm.
They also still use some synchros. And even though Levianeer is like their primary boss monster, pretty much all of their XYZ plays, all of their synchro plays, if you interrupt them with a flip down, it can kind of end their turn because their flip downs are their synchros and their XYZs are like they are they are plays, but they are also ways to extend their plays. You know, um, if you think Thunder Dragons want to summon either a Raiden and a Dragon Dark to summon a Vermilion, or they want to summon an Aloof Lupine to banish some a Dark and a Dragon Roar, and then with those cards they are able to eventually go into rank 6. However, if you are able to flip down their Thunder Dragon monster, that kind of like puts a damper on what they can do. They can still sometimes, like if they have another extender, they can go into their XYZ still. However, um, if you flip down the XYZ, then they just don't use the effect that turn, and the defense of some of them are okay, but you can still swing over with an average boss monster.
All right. Which one do you think would be best here? Canada, Floodgate, Book of Moon, or are they all kind of equal?
Um, I'd say they're all pretty similar in strength. I could see maybe Canadia would be a little better just because it can also resummon itself and be a defensive card in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Book of Moon may be better if your deck is like wants to play into like a force focus or something like that.
Okay.
But they're all generally somewhat valuable, however, not they're not crazy valuable, but they don't vary too hard in terms of what is useful for in that matchup and what isn't.
All right. The deck that's on screen right now, Desperado.
I would say 100% Canadia and Book of Moon, and maybe more so Book of Moon, but
Oh, really?
Canadia is very close second.
I was thinking Canada, or because it can't be it's unaffected by monster effects, right? By your opponent's monster effects.
Yeah, so Book of Moon, the place where Book of Moon is more valuable is when you go second into Desperado, and they might try to use Buddy Force on your turn. And when they try to do that, you can flip down their card, which is something that Canadia wouldn't be able to do.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Okay.
the point where Canadia is better is um, you will still be wanting to flip down their monsters with Canadia. However, sometimes they'll try to make an aggressive play with either a Karma Cut or a Buddy Force. And if they do that and you have Canadia Engrave, the revive effect to have just a defensive body to just keep yourself alive for that little bit, it's worth it a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say both are pretty valuable for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. So Floodgate just not making the top of the list here at all, is it?
Yeah, that's one matchup where it's just because of how Desperado plays, it can use Buddy Force on Chainlink 2 or higher to play around Floodgate. Um, if a dark machine is destroyed by battle, Desperado summons in the damage calculation. So it's like Floodgate can't be activated at that point.
Hmm.
So that's just another point where Floodgate is kind of falls short, you know.
All right. I want to move on to Invoke Neos because I'm trying to think what's at the top of the power rankings right now. I think that was in the last ones that's up there. Noble Knights, Blue Eyes, Desperado, Invoke Neos. How are we looking
I would
for Invoke
say
Neos?
Invoke Neos is where I think Floodgate actually wins out.
Really?
So this
Just
is
getting
one
that
matchup.
Purgatrio face down and don't let it back up.
Yeah. Um well it's Purgatrio, but it's also Brave Neos,
Okay.
or it's also just like being able to flip down those really big monsters permanently. So even if those like the Brave Neos is protected by the Neos fusion, just like keep it excuse me, keeping it from getting aggressive is like pretty valuable.
I
The
think
thing is,
we did a video before where I think you said you want to clog their board, right? Because they have a hard time dealing with that.
yeah, that's a hard time thing for Neos to deal with sometimes. But the thing is that Neos isn't super popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know the exact stats from power rankings, but I know from what I've seen, it definitely is not very popular in tournaments. Um, just like representation wise, most people have moved to Noble Knights, Desperado,
Oh yeah.
Blue Eyes,
Yeah.
especially.
Definitely. Yeah. That's definitely the lion's share of every tournament
Yeah,
right now. But I mean, there still are a few other ones that still get in there. Like right now, we're watching Black Wings on here. Black Wings. I mean, you could pretty much use anything against them, right?
yeah. Pretty much all of the above are
As soon as
valuable
they
against.
summon, flip it down.
Yeah, just having if you can flip their monster face down and you can like attack them, then you're in a winning position. You know,
Right. Okay.
I would
What?
say maybe Book of Moon is a little better just because you can do something with it going second. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but generally they're all very valuable in that matchup.
All right. One last one before we get out of here. Just because it's probably a frustrating deck for a lot of people to play against, especially with these kind of cards. Um, Ritual Beasts.
Ritual Beast is a matchup where they're all very low value,
Right.
I would say. So I would say Floodgate is probably the least valuable. Uh, it can sometimes be good if the Ritual Beast player makes a mistake, and if they make a mistake, Floodgate is amazingly good. However, if your opponent or if the Ritual Beast player is aware that there's a Floodgate, it is almost never going to be useful, I
Hmm.
should say. Um, Canadia and Book of Moon. Um, you can go back and forth between which is better. Um, maybe Book of Moon is slightly better because it helps you. You could flip down. You can threaten to flip down an ulti Petalfin.
Hmm.
However, just because all of the fusions can tag out, all of the flip down effects are really not that impactful.
Not impactful. Actually, before we got here, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna check the power ranking, so we're gonna hold still. Okay, and we're back. And actually, that was the top five from the power rankings last week. So we're actually pretty good. Sixth place with Magnets, but who cares, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's Magnets.
just magnets.
Yep. So I would
Who's
say
gonna be mad at
definitely
that bad though? But
uh the title of the video or the thumbnail says, which one's the best right now. So we're definitely putting Floodgate in third place.
yeah,
So between Book of Moon and Canadia, I'm gonna make you pick one. Overall, everything you just said. If you were living on a desert island and you had to play against Kaiba and he only gave you one flip down and you had to choose, what would it be?
Hmm. I think
In the current meta, he's playing a current meta deck, not necessarily Blue Eyes.
I think the call is Book of Moon.
Oh,
In a
someone works
very
for Konami.
in a very close in a very close race. I think I'm not going to pressure anyone into spending their life savings,
You heard it
their
here
left life.
first, folks. Neg1 says spend all your money on Book of Moon.
Um, but it's like if you have access to Book of Moon and Canadia, I would say Book of Moon is just it edges it out just a little bit because against Noble Knights, especially,
Mm-hmm.
you want the flip down like going second, and Canadia is just
It's a
it's
little
just
too slow.
just too slow, unfortunately.
All right. Next time we do our new player video, and I'm telling people to get Canadia, I want to have you do just a little voiceover bit where you say, "Hi, I'm Negative1, and I fully endorse Paleozoic Canadia." And then that's it. I'm just gonna play that clip in there. How's that sound?
All right, well, we'll workshop it.
All right, guys. I hope watching this video helped shed some light on the cards a little bit. Like we're always talking about when we're talking about staples and getting them in our new player video or other videos. And this is why, because they fluctuate. Like just a few, like a month ago or whatever, Floodgate was the card to have, and Canadia was not getting played at all, right? And now it's completely flipped, and Canadia is hot, and Floodgate is a distant third. And I'm sure there's gonna be times where Book of Moon is gonna take a back seat too. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully you can kind of see where we were coming from here. Why Book of Moon, I guess, is number one right now, Canada two, and then Floodgate number three. So, so make sure to get in our Discord because that's where you can talk to awesome people that can answer your questions that you have in our new player help channel or any kind of help. You don't have to be a new player. You can be an old time player that needs help. You can ask questions in there, and we'd be more than happy to help you. And that's where we host all our tournaments, and they're always free to get into. And so is the Discord. It's a great time. You can say hi to Negative1 in there, and he'll say hi back. So make sure to do that, all right?
For sure.
We're going to get out of here. You should get in the Discord. I'm Circus. That's Neg1.
Take it easy.
We'll see you next time.